Hello, everyone. Hope you are doing good and okay. Welcome to the part 2 of the fundamentals of Next.js14 and Prisma 4. This is where we left off after we introduced this course. We are going to continue from this point. So let's head over to the slides and see what we are going to be covering in this section here. As you can see here, this is what we'll be doing here. We are going to be building the general layout of the application in this section. And we are also going to be using this library CLSX for conditional class names, to give class names, to write our class names conditionally. And we are also going to see how we can optimize our fonts. And we are also going to optimize our images with next image. And we are going to be optimizing our links also with next links. And finally, we are going to route between the pages of our application. Now, if you're watching this video at this point and you haven't subscribed to the channel, please make sure you subscribe to the channel, because your subscription is a way of helping me and also helping this channel grow, so that this channel can reach more people, and people also need content like this in order to grow. So with that said, hit the subscription button and turn on your notification bell so that when I upload new videos, you get notified. You can also send me your thoughts in the comment section. I loved constructive criticisms. They help me grow. So I need your thoughts on the comment section of this video or every video which we are going to be posting in this series. So with that said, let's get started in seeing what we are going to be covering in this section here. Okay, now we have font optimization. Now, why do we need to optimize our font? So you know that custom fonts and some heavy fonts, they increase the initial load time of our page. That's the first reason why we need to optimize our fonts. And Next.js has made this process really, really easy for us. We don't need to do a lot in order to achieve the optimization for our fonts. It comes out of the box with Next.js. And also, excessive requests for fonts will slow down the page load time. Yes. Imagine that you have 5 fonts in your application, and all of these 5 fonts, we are sending network requests to these 5 fonts, maybe to Google or some external, or some other places where you get your fonts, because HTTP requests are going to be sent to those external sources which you are getting your fonts from, and all of this is going to slow down the initial load time of your page. So these are the reasons why we need to optimize our fonts, so we can have better load time for our application, and our application can run a little bit faster, and we can make our customers happy actually. So another problem that occurs with font is layout shift may occur as the fonts are being downloaded and loaded onto our application. So layout shift, if you look on the right here, you see this is an example of a layout shift, because when your fonts are being downloaded from an external source, first the fonts will not be displayed on the web page immediately, the fonts which you downloaded. So the default font for the system or a fallback font is going to be used. So that fallback font may have a small size or a smaller typeface, and the custom fonts which you are importing might be bigger or even smaller. So it can mess up the whole structure of your application when the fonts are being loaded. So it can cause a shape like this. So this will make our web browser to be very annoyed. So all of this affects our SEOs and our load time in general. So all of this affect the load time for the application. So what can Next.js do in order to solve this problem for us? So because that is the main reason why we are using Next.js. That's the main reason why we call Next.js that framework, because it has all of this thing built into Next.js. So what Next.js does is it hosts these fonts for us. Our custom font is going to host the fonts for us in their CDN. So since the fonts are already hosted at build time, you collect the fonts and host the fonts at build time. We do not need to send extra requests or extra HTTP requests to the fonts or to a place like Google Fonts. If we're getting our fonts from Google Fonts, we don't need to send extra HTTP requests to Google Fonts in order to get the fonts. We just need to use the fonts from Next.js, from where it's been hosted in Next.js. Can be over a CDN, a content delivery network. With that said, let's go and see how we can include font in our application. We are back in our application here. For us to include the font, which we are going to be using in this application, we'll come to this layout file here. I thought you were going to look at this layout file later. So if you look in this application here, we see that Next.js is already importing this popping font for us, but we do not want to use this popping font here. So I'm going to set my own font here. So I'll be using Lato. So you see that it's getting this font from next font/Google. So we don't have to worry because this font is going to be downloaded from Google by Next.js and hosted for us. Yes. So right now we can get any font which we want from Google through this next font here. So I'm going to be getting Lato. I'm going to get Lato from here, and here I can just replace popping here with Lato, and the name here I'll just say Lato. Okay. The weight, you need to specify the weight here. If you are using if you are not using a variable font, you need to more specify the weight here. If not, you're going to run into an error. So here I'm going to say Lato dot class name. Okay, just like this, we have font. We have this font in our application. This is the font which we are going to be using throughout this application, this Lato font here. So what about this subset here? This subset here, what this subset does is it just reduced the size of the font. So, and if the size of the font is reduced, that means performance is also increased. So that is what this subset here does. When you specify this subset, it knows what it gets from Google font. Also with the weight here, you can, the more you specify the weight, the more space is going to require. So, but we are just going to use this two weights here. We have the 400 and the 700 for our bold text. So for now, this is what we have here. And here we have, if you look at this layout file here, we have this metadata here, or we are importing metadata from metadata, which is coming from Next.js. Here we can change this. Let's just change this to our application name. We're going to set this to tracker. Just say tracker/home. Let's just say tracker. And the description will say track anything at any time. Okay, just yes, we'll keep it simple for now like this. So what I want us to do is let's open our browser and see what this is giving us here. Yes, you see, we still have the text here. Welcome to Next.js fundamental course. Let's click on it and open our developer tools here. Yes, so if you look at this text here, if you click on this text here, let's come to, we have H1 here. Let's come to the body here, because this is where we are applying the font. Okay, if you look at the font family here, you see we have Lato here. You see, it's been prefixed with this underscore here. So that means we have our font being loaded correctly in this application. So I'm going to get rid of that. Now I want to change the stylings we have here. And also, we can add additional font. We're going to see how we can add additional font to the Lato font which we are using, because we're going to use another font for our logo. Yes, we're going to use a different font for our logo. So with that said, let's go and see. Let's go back to the application here. If I come here, in order for us to add a new font, I'm going to create a different folder. I'll add some folders under this directory. Create some new folders here. This one I'm just going to call this I'll call this dashboard. Yes, I'll create another folder. I'll call this lib. This is going to hold our actions. We're going to have our actions here, and also this is going to hold some utility functions for us. This lib folder here. I'll get another folder, and this is going to be for this folder. I'll just call it UI, which is going to be for our components, and another folder here is going to be login. This folder, we're going to use this folder to log into our application. So okay, we have these folders here now. The next thing we need to do is I'll come to this lib. This is where I'm going to create that, I'll just say font.tx. This is going to hold our font, our other font which we're going to create here. So here I'm just going to say import. I'm going to use Poppins for this one. I'll use Poppins here. And here what I'll do is we'll just say export const. I'll say Poppins, and we'll say Poppins. Export const, yes, like this. And in here, the first thing we need to put here is our subset, and we are going to say Latin here. The second option here is going to be a weight, and the weight here is going to be a string also. I'm just going to give one width here, which is going to be the 700. Okay, like this. So just like this, now we have popping here in our application. We have it here. Now, why are we exporting this from this file like this? The reason why we are doing this is that when we import this font in a component, when that component is this font is going to be preloaded when that component renders. Yes, when that component renders, this font here is going to be preloaded for us. So we don't need to go, like I told you before, you don't need to download this font back from the from Google Phone where it is coming from. It's just going to be preloaded when the component renders. So we are going to be needing that font here in this component here. So we can bring in that font in this component here. Now I'm going to get rid of this h1 here. I'll get rid of this h1 and I'll just give a p here. What's a p? I'll give it class name here. Class name is going to be template editor like this. And we can bring in our popping font from here and we'll say dot the class name. And now we can write some styles here. The text here is going to be indigo 100, and cursor is going to be pointer. Font is going to be bold, and text is going to be 6x large. Text is going to be 6x large. Yes, and position here is going to be absolute. Yes, because we want to position this absolutely. So this container top is going to be 4 and left is going to be 4, like this. Okay, now we have this p element here. We just need to give a title to this as tracker here. Great. Now we need to change this also. I'll put relative here because we are putting absolute there. We need to make this container relative. And also, justified here is not going to be between. I'll set to center. And I'm going to remove this padding here. And also for this min height, I'm just going to say the height is going to be screen relative. Yes. So this flex is not going to be column. I'm going to remove this column. It's going to be role. And I'm probably going to set an overflow here of hidden. So with this now we have our popping font here. Let's say I'll come here. Yes, you see, this is it. It's not yet quite visible because we don't yet have our image here. So if you click on it, let's inspect this. Okay, you see the font family here is popping. It's starting with popping here. So we have our font nicely set up here. So let's continue. Let's go back to the application. Here, okay, this is it. I'm going to just put the rest of this HTML here before I talk about images, because we need to put our hero image there. But now, let me just give some classes here. Also relative, div relative z index of 10 here, and the width here, I'm just going to give a width of, let's say, 600 pixels. And text is going to be indigo, indigo 100, yes. And text is going to be center, okay, like this. And inside this div, I'm going to have an h1. It's going to be h1, yes. And this h1 will just say elevate your order experience. Okay, let's just give a class name here. The text here is going to be 4x large, and font is going to be bold, and a margin bottom of 4. Also, we need to have a p tag here too, and this p tag I'm just going to say track, comma, trace, and triumph your orders, comma, your control. Welcome to the future of seamless delivery monitoring. Yes, seamless delivery monitoring. Okay. I just need to give some styles here too. The class name text is going to be x large. No, it's just going to be large here, and margin bottom is going to be 6. So below here, I'm going to have a div. Not really a div. I'm just going to have an a element here. Now we are using an a here because we are not yet talking about links. When we reach the point where we're going to talk about links, we're going to change this a element to a link element here. So right now I'll just say login. This is what this link element is going to say, and it's just going to go to slash login. We don't yet have this page yet. Class name here. We're going to give a background of indigo 100. Text is going to be x large, and the text indigo 500 px6 and py3 rounded full. Great. Just needed to write some of these styles here. Now we need to put our image here. But before we do that, let's go and see why we need to optimize our images. Let's see why we need to optimize our images. If you look on this slide here, on the left here we have the HTML image tag. On the right here we have the next image component. Now these are some of the problems we faced when we are working with the native image element in React. So we need to ensure that images are responsive on different screen sizes. And how do we do this? We do this by specifying different height and width for different screen sizes and at different viewports. So you see that it takes a lot of work to do all of that. So we also need to specify the image size for different devices. Yes, I said that up here. And you need to prevent layout shift as the images are being loaded. So layout shift is also a problem with images. It's even a much bigger problem with images. So we need to manually prevent this layout shift problem as images are being loaded, as the images are entering the viewports of our applications. So you need to lazy load the images outside the viewport. So all of this are very tedious work which you can do. You can achieve this with some hard work with React, but with Next.js, all of that comes out of the box. Remember, when we built our application, we didn't worry. I mean, the broken application which we built with React, we didn't worry much about images. We just specified the sizes of the images which we're going to be using, and we were good to go. We didn't talk a lot about images or lazy loading our images and all of that. But with Next.js here, it's important because everything follows a structure. So you need to obey the rules. So here you see this is a Next.js next image component. So it prevents layout shift automatically when images are being loaded. So it automatically prevents layout shift as the image are being loaded into the application. So it auto resize image for different screen sizes for you. It lazy loads images by default as they enters the viewport. And it also tries to serve the images in modern formats like WebP and AVIF. So these are formats that reduce the size of our image and serve as a much more smaller size with high quality for us. And so all of this here is being done by Next.js for us. Imagine that you have 200 images on a single web page, even more than 1,000 images on a single web page. And imagine that all of those images are loaded at once in that single page. It's going to slow down that page, the load time for that page. And yes, it's going to slow down the load time of that page. And also layout shift is going to occur. So the best thing is you can load the images that are currently in the viewport, while the other images that are not yet in the viewport can stay put. While you scroll to the other section, or while you navigate to the other section of the application, those images can now be loaded because they are already downloaded somewhere, but in the background, but they do not affect the performance of your application. So that is what Next.js does for us. Now let's go and see how we can include images in our application. Here, let's see how we can include images in this application. Let's come back here. What I will do is just after this P, I'm going to put an image tag here. here I'll give it like this, and this is going to be hero JPEG. It's not in the image folder. Okay, like this. I'm going to remove all of this, so I don't need this. The quality is 100. Yes, I'll give all text is hero image. Okay, this is fine now. So one thing you should note here is that when you import your images like this here, this hero images here, when you import it to the source directory like this, what you need to do is you need to provide a height and a width for that image. When you provide a height and a width for that image, Next.js is going to allocate the space according to the height and the height and the width which you have provided. This is to make sure that layout shift should not occur in when when Next.js is rendering that page. So you need to must provide a height here and a width. And the height here, I'm just going to give this to 9080 like this, and the width here, I'm going to give this width to 180 like this. So if you check out, yes, everything compares very well. Everything is compares fine now. If you go and check, let's check here. Yes, you see, we have the image here. This is the image here. It has the height here and the width. This is the height and the width of the images here. Let's go back to our application and make this image span the whole, to cover the whole, all of this container. So I'm going to give it class name here. I'll say absolute. Instead of z here, I'll say insert 0, and I'll say height is going to be screen, width is going to be full, of course, and object is going to be cover like this. Down here, I'm going to give an empty div here. Yes, I'll say absolute is going to be insert to black, and opacity is going to be 70. Okay. Now, if you go and check, let me see, if you go back and check, yes, this is what we have now. Okay. Now, what I want to do is I want to show you what will happen if we remove the height and width of that container of this image. Sorry, let's just remove the height and the width of this image here. Or save. You see, we already have an error here. So if you come back here, you see error, image width for source hero is missing a required width property. So you need to provide the height and the width when you are importing the image like this, when you are providing the image as a string here. I just wanted to show you that. And also, there is another way which you can set your images in Next.js without having to provide the height and the width. So you can use static imports. You can use static imports to import your images without actually specifying the height and the width for that images here. Here we are going to give like this, and I'm going to import. I will say, I'll just call this hero from hero slash. No, this is going to be, we're going to go 2 levels down, public and hero. And here I just need to say hero like this. Now we do not need to specify the height and the width. If we run this application now, it's going to compile and it's not going to give us any error. So let's go and check. Yes, you see, we are back here. So you can import your images like this without specifying a height and the width for them. Next.js is going to automatically figure out the height and the width of this image for you, and it's going to render this image on different screen sizes based on that static input. Now, why does it happen? Why does it happen like that? It happened like that because Next.js at build time already has that file in its possession, so they know the size and the height. They know the size of that image. They know the height and the width of that image. But when you are sending the image like a string like that, or you are taking the image from a domain on the internet, Next.js do not know the size and the height of that image at that particular moment. That's why you need to explicitly specify the height and the width of the image in order to prevent the layout shift which we talked about. So those are the 2 ways in which you can send your image into the Next.js image component. So you can also determine the size of an image in Next.js implicitly. Let me show you how you can determine the size of an image in Next.js implicitly. So we'll go back to let's go back to there. our code here. And for that to work, it's not commonly used these days, because you can automatically you can just use the next image like this, and the size is going to be automatically detected by Next.js. So before they used to do like this. You put a div here, and you need to wrap back this image here in a div like this, and here you need to specify the width and the height of this image here. Let's just say the width here is going to be, let's say, screen here, and here we need to, you say layout to be filled. You need to specify layout to be filled here, and here you can say absolute. Here you need to set this container here as relative. This, you set this to relative like this. So if you go now and check, you see it's going to compile very well. And if you go back and check, you're not going to receive any errors here. You're not going to receive any errors. See, but the image is been the image is shifted. Let's go back to our code and see what we are doing wrong here. I'll come back here. Okay, here we are setting the width here to screen. Now this is not correct. Here we just need to set the width here to, the width of the image here is 9020 pixels, and the height here also is the height here is 1080 pixels like this. Okay, now I think if you go now, you see the image. Okay, we have the image here, but this text is on the right here. So you see, this is the height of the image. This is the height of the image actually, and this is the width of the image. So you see, and we have this text here. We now need to like put this text in the container and position it absolute to this other container here, to this image here. But now, so you see that you can resize the image. This is not going to throw us any error here. So you can set sizes for image. There are 3 ways in which you can set the image size in Next.js, and I've showed you all the 3 ways. Now let's go back. Let's go back, and we need to remove this div. We don't want to do it this way. We're not going to do it this way. Here, we don't need this field here. Okay, we don't need that field here. So let's go back and check if everything is working now. Let's come back here. Yes, everything is now in place back. Let's bring up our dev tools again. Okay, if you look at our dev tools, we are receiving an error here. Down here, you see this error. I mean, this is not an error, it's just a warning message here. Let me see, let me refresh the page first. If that's the error message we're receiving, let's go back to F12. Yes, we have image width source hero has either width or height modified, but not the other. If you use CSS to change the size of your image, also include the styles width to auto and height to auto to maintain the aspect ratio. So this is a warning message we are having here, because it seems as we are also changing the height and width of our images using CSS. It's been modified using CSS. So let's go back here. So what we can do to make that error message disappear there, we can just put height instead of screen here. I'll put auto here, because that's what they're saying there. We just put auto here. Okay, with this now, let me go back and see. Okay, this is okay. You see the message is even gone here. Let me check back. Let's come here. Let's refresh. I'll go back here. You see, we do not have that warning anymore here. So with this, we wrap up this section for images. Next, we're going to be looking at routing. Routing is a very important part in building a web application, because with routing, we are able to move around the application with ease. So it is a very crucial part in building web applications. Now, in Next.js, routing is built right into the app directory here. You see, this is the app directory here. This is where we define our route. So every folder which you have under this app directory is considered as a route segment. That is why if you look here, we see we already have this app directory here. We have this page.txts file here. This is a special file that Next.js provides for us, and what this file does is it makes this route segment accessible to us. Yes, it makes this route segment accessible to the general public. That is, when you navigate to this URL, if you go to the application we are building now, if you go to localhost slash just localhost 3000 slash, we are going to read this page.txs because it is embedded in the root directory of this app here, of this app directory here. So let me show you. If we go to our application, let's go to our application and see what I'm talking about here. You see, we are able to view all of this here just by calling this localhost 3000 here. That is because we have that page right into that app directory there. We have that page in that app directory. If we remove that page from the app directory, we're not going to be able to see this content, what we are seeing here. So that is the use of the app, that page.txs. It makes our route segment accessible here in this address bar here. So let's go back to the slide and so now if you define a folder here, that folder is not going to do anything. Let me show you. If you write this folder here, this dashboard, this is going to be a folder. It's a dashboard folder. If you write this dashboard folder here and you go to localhost 3000 slash dashboard, you're not going to see anything. It's going to show us an error because we do not have the page.txs file under this dashboard folder. But if you bring in the page.txs file now here, you will be able to see the corresponding route for this page.txs file here. See, now if you go now to this slash dashboard, you'll be able to see this the content for this dashboard here because we have this page under the dashboard directory here, under this dashboard folder here. You see, we can nest a segment inside another. That means if we create another folder under this dashboard, it's going to and we put a page.txs file inside that folder, we're going to have another URL which we can navigate to. Let me show you here. If we have the orders folder here right under this dashboard and we have another page.txs here, and this is going to be the URL in which we can access the information for our orders here in this dashboard slash orders. You see that we can nest folders inside each order and provide this page.txs in those folders in order to create our route. So that's how the file-based routing system works in Next.js. You just nest folders inside each order and you provide this page.txs in those folders and they become your URL endpoints. Let's go back to our code and see how we can create some route segments for the application which we are currently building. So if we come back to the application here, I'm going to close this. We already defined some folders here. If you look here, you see these folders aren't going to do anything for us. Let's try to go to slash dashboard and see something. Let's go to slash dashboard. Let's go here. We're in the home directory here. Let's say dashboard here. Let's say it's not doing anything. It's still showing the content to us. Yes, this you have the 404 error. That means this page could not be found. We have this custom 404 error here. We're going to learn how to handle our errors and display a better error message or page after. So you see, we cannot access this dashboard here now. For us to access this dashboard right now, what we're going to do is we are going to just put a new file here. Let's just say page.txs here. With this now, we can say rfce to create a new React component, and here I'm just going to rename this to dashboard. Okay, fine. See, the application compiles back. If you now go to our application, if you go now to our browser, you will see, yes, we have a dashboard here. You see, we now have something, a content here, dashboard. So we have the dashboard now. So let's create some more routes here. Now, what about this lib here? It's a route segment, but it's doing nothing because we don't have a page.txs file here, but we have this font. So if we had a page.txs file here, we could navigate to this section here. Now, what about this login here? Let's create its own page.txs file because it's going to be a route in our application here. So rfce, and here I'm just going to say login. And in this dashboard, we need to create some additional folders here to work with. Now we can nest orders. Let's say we can create a nested route here. I'll just call these orders. Yes, and in these orders, I'm going to create a new page.txs. You can also call this page.ts, is going to work just fine. So rfce, I'll call this orders.txs. Oh no, just orders. Like this. Yes. So in here, I'm going to have another folder, not in this orders, in this dashboard, I'm going to have another folder here. I'll just call this tracking. We're going to use this to track our orders. And I'll give another page here, a page.txs. And this is going to be tracking like this. Now, so you see, we have nested these two here. And this is not all. We can further, if we want to create an order, we can nest it here. If we want to create edit an order, we can also nest it in this order folder here. So we are going to nest this 3 levels down here. So here I'm going to create a new folder here. I'll say create. This is going to be to create our orders, and I'll just say page.txs, and here I'll scaffold my component and I'll say create order here. Okay. Now, what about editing? Editing is a dynamic operation because we do not know the segment or the route which we are going to be editing. We do not know if we're going to be editing the product with ID2 or ID4. So the point is, we do not have that information at hand at the moment in order to edit that product. So for that, Next.js gives us a way of writing dynamic route. Yes. The way we write dynamic route in Next.js is, because we are under the orders folder here, you're going to create a new folder and you put square brackets here. This is supposed to be square brackets, and you put something like an ID or a slug. It can be anything here, but this has to be the aggregate which you will use to either edit the order or to fetch for orders in the database. So this is here, I'm just specifying the ID here because this is what we're going to be using. There's the ID here. Now the thing here is this ID is only going to be available at request time or during pre-rendered at build time by Next.js. That is why we need to make it available here. So we'll just pass the square brackets here like this in this folder, and we create a new file under this folder with the square brackets. Let's create a new file there. I'll just say page.txs. Okay, I'll just say rfce here to create a new React component, and here I will just say edit orders. Edit order. Okay, this is good now. So just like this, we have our edit order route. Now let's check if these endpoints which we have defined here are actually working. So what I'll do, let's go to the application here. We are at tracker here. Let's go to slash dashboard. We define a dashboard. So let's go to slash dashboard here. Yes, you see we have the dashboard here. We are directed to the dashboard successfully. And if you look, don't worry about these stripes you see here. This is because the height, this is just the height of this text here. So it's repeated all over the screen. That's why we have this gray stripes here like this. So let's try dashboard/orders. Okay, we have it here. Yes, you see, we are directed to the orders page. We can then go to the edit page by putting like a dynamic parameter here. Let's just say 3 here. I'll put 3. Let's see. Yes, you see, edit order page here. This is the edit order page here. Yes. So let's go back. Let's put 7. Oh, this is, yes, let's put 7. You see, it's still the edit page. It's dynamic because we do not know the particular order which we want to edit here. So when we put the parameter here, that is when that order is going to be evaluated. So let's go back to the application. Let's go back here. Now, there is something also. What if we want to pass like 3 parameters? What if we want to pass like 3 parameters here? If you try to pass other parameters into this edit method here, this edit segment here, we are going to have an error, a not found error, because it doesn't match a route in our application. It doesn't match any route segment in our application. So let's try that and see. Let's actually give that a try. If you come back here, let's add another. Let's say we want to also get ID number. Let's say we want to get ID number 9 here and ID number 2. Like this. If you hit enter, we're going to get a not found error here. You see, this is a 404 error we're having. This page could not be found. Now, how can we achieve this result? How can we catch this subsequent parameters in this URL here? Now, Next.js actually it provides a way for us to do that. So let's see how that is being done. If you come here, you can catch the other parameters in that route segment by just putting 3 dots inside this square brackets here. Yes, it's like you can use the spread operator here inside the square bracket in here. So what we'll do is we just give 1, 2, 3 like this to rename it. Okay, with this rename, if you go back to the application, you see that that error will be gone, and we're going to receive our edit page. So let's check that out. Let's come back. Yes, you see, we are still getting our edit page. This is our edit page here. Nothing has changed. So that is how you can catch other parameters with dynamic routes. So let's go back to the code. There is one thing I want you to note here also. The parameters which we are passing here in this edit page, Next.js, Next.js is going to pass those parameters to the page prop, to this page prop here. So Next.js is going to pass whatever parameters which we are passing into this dynamic segment here. Next.js will pass those parameters as prop to the page of that route segment, to the page component of that route segment. So we can retrieve the parameters as props here. So what we can do is, I'll just say params so ID. Yes, we're going to take it as ID. And remember, since we are using TypeScript, we need to give the types of this param. I'm just going to say it's an ID. So we'll just say params here is ID of string, like this. The ID is a string. I have something going on here. Let me see. We need this this curly braces here. We need to bring it here. Okay, it's fine now. Let's lock this ID to the console. You see that we're going to have an array of those 3 IDs which we have up there. So CLJ, and here we can just lock the ID. Now, if you go to the browser, you're not going to see this ID because this page here is a server component. It's a server component. So we need to bring up our let's bring up our terminal. Okay, yes, you see we have the IDs here. You have 7, 9, and 2 here. So this shows that you see that Next.js pass these IDs here. Next.js is going to pass the parameters for this segment as props to the pages file here. The route parameter is not the only thing Next.js pass into the pages prop. Next.js also pass the search query or the query parameters. Yes, Next.js pass the query parameters right into this props here, into the page prop. So let's see how let's see if we can get the query parameter here. So what we'll do is let's put a comma here and we'll say search params, and let's just say this search params, let's just give it a name, maybe it's search term. Let's just say search like this. So you see we need to provide the type for this search parameter here. So I'll come here and I say search parameter, search params. This is of type string. Not like this. We need to put search here. We need to put search, and search is of type string. Okay. Now let's lock search to the console. Say search. Oh, yes, like this. Okay. You see, we have undefined here. Now let's go to our browser and try to put a search parameter to our URL params. So to our URL. So let's go up here. Let's put let's say question mark. Let's just say search is pending. We hit enter. Let's go back to the application. This is let's go back here. Okay, you see now we have pending here. If you change it back, let's change this from pending to delivered here. Let's go back. you see that it's also changed to delivered. So you see that we can also receive the search parameter from this page file here, provided that it is the same segment which we are working in. So for now, this is everything we need to know about pages. This is everything we need to know about pages. Um, there is a lot about this page file here, but we're going to talk about it in later videos. So when they come up, we'll talk about them. So I mentioned earlier that this page here is a server component. We're going to talk about that also. We're going to talk about what server components are and what clients components are. But what I want you to take from here is that for every file or every component which you create in Next.js, it's automatically going to be a server component. That means it's been rendered on the server. Yes. So you can opt in to the client component by putting a use client attribute up here at the top of your page. So for now, when we'll be building our application, just have that in mind. But we're going to talk about these two environments. We have the server environment and the client environment, which happens to be our browser. So we're going to talk about those two environments in great details later down in the video. So now let's head over to the layout page. Let's head over to the layout page and look and talk a little bit about the layout page before we can continue crafting our application. So here we have the layout.txs file here. This is how the layout of our application is going to look like. This is just a skeleton of our application, which I came up with before I start building the application. If you look here, you see that we have this layout here, and in each of these pages we see the structure of this layout here. So you can see that the layout file is used to share a piece of UI between the pages of the application. So this layout file, you see, if you look at each of these pages, this is the dashboard page, this is the orders page, and here this is the create orders page. All of them have this sidebar here. This sidebar here is this sidebar that is shared between these three pages here. So, and that is made possible because of this layout.txt file here. So you see all the files that are under this dashboard folder are going to inherit this layout.txt. The layout.txt file in Next.js is pretty straightforward, so it doesn't really need a lot of explanation. So let's just go and check. Let's go and check it in the application here. So if we come here, let's go to the root layout, because right now when you create a Next.js application, you're going to have a root layout file and a root page file here. This is a page file we're working with. Yes, that comes with Next.js, and this root layout file here. If you open this root layout file, this is actually called the root layout. It's always at the top of the app router here. It's going to be here. If you look at the root layout here, you see it looks like if you have worked with React application, it looks almost like the app folder, the app file in React, which happens to be the entry point of the application. Because if you look here in Next.js, this layout.txt file here, it has this HTML and this body element here, and it is only this root layout that can contain this HTML and this body element throughout the whole application here. And if you look at the root layout also, it is accepting some props. You have the children props, and this children prop is a React node. So that means we can pass HTML elements here. We can pass our React components right down to this layout page here, down to this layout file here. This root layout also contains an optional parameters, which happen to be our route parameter here. It contains an optional parameter. So I'm just if you do the same thing we did in the pages here, let's say params here, and this is going to be like an ID here. Oh, sorry. Let's say params ID here, and we need to specify the type here also. So this is going to be params, say params of type ID is string, like this. Great. If you lock this to the console now, you'll see it's going to give us an empty string because we do not have any parameter as ID here. Let's lock this. Yes, it's actually giving us undefined here. So it's giving us undefined here because the root layout cannot access the route segment below them here, because you see that we are the root layout here. So it cannot access this route here. It cannot access this other route here, because this other route here is below this. Is below this home route like this. This is the home route which we are on. So everything below this home route, that route layout cannot access it. That's why we are getting undefined there. So this, and because actually an ID is not defined in this root layout, obviously we're going to get undefined there. So I just wanted to show you that you can pass, you can receive parameters in our layout files. You can receive parameters in the layout files. So I'm just going to get rid of this, and I'll get rid of this. So now we do not have a lot to do here. We can go and create our own layout file, a layout file that's going to be shared among this dashboard. So every file that is nested inside this dashboard is going to have that layout. We have the order and we have the trackings, including creating an order and editing an order is going to have that piece of UI shared among them. So to do that, we just have to create a new file inside this dashboard called layout.txs. I'll come to the dashboard here. I'll create a new file. I'll say layout.txs here, and say R of CE, because this is actually a component, and this is going to be layout, just like this. We'll leave it like this as layout, but we need to pass in our children here. Say children like this. Okay, so what I'm left to do here is I just want to provide the types for this children here. I'll just give it, this is going to be React Node, and here we just need to provide the props here like this. I'll give a class name here, class name of flex, and here I'll say height is going to be screen and background here is going to be white like this. I'm going to remove this layout here. I'll give another div here. Inside this div, I'll say flex is going to be none, and the width here, I want to set the width here to 64, okay, like this. And this 64 is actually going to be for medium devices here. 64 width is going to be for medium devices. And now also I can give a background color here. Let's say background of indigo 500. Okay, in here let's just give an h1 of, let's say, sidebar. We're going to change this in just a moment. So sidebar. Now down to this other div, this is where we are going to pass our children. Our children are going to live in this div. So I'll say flex grow here, and a padding left of 2. On medium devices upward, I want to give a padding left of 12 like this. And in here is going to be our children. We're going to pass our children inside this div here. Now this is where our pages are going to live. So let's see how this is all coming along. Let's go to we are at the dashboard here. Let's head over to let's head to the dashboard here. You see we have the sidebar here. We have the sidebar and we have the dashboard here. You see that the dashboard page now is being rendered here, and we have this sidebar here. Let's go to dashboard/orders. Yes, see, and let's go to /orders/create. Yes, you see. Now, one thing you need to note about this layout file is that this layout file is going to preserve its state across navigation. As we move from one page to another, this shared layout is going to preserve its state. That means whatever state we have here is going to remain within this component. And within that time, within that navigation period, this component, this shared component here is going to be interactive as well. That means the shared component for the layout file is never been re-rendered. Come to think of it, if this component was being re-rendered every time we navigate from one page to the other, that means if we were to go to a route like let's say orders/to an edit route here, let's say 8 here, This is an empty file. That means all of everything we have here is going to be re-rendered, and even for that, for the create routes, and also for the other routes, for the dashboard routes. So when we move to the other routes, every section is going to be re-rendered as well. So it's not supposed to be so. So the thing you should note here is that upon navigation, this the shared layouts are never being re-rendered. So right now, what we're left to do is we want to create our sidebar here. Let's create our sidebar here so that we can have our navigation menu here. We can have our navigation items here. So if we go back, let's go back to our code. What we're going to do is let's come to the UI here. We're going to create some new folders under this UI. So the first I'm going to start is with the dashboard here. And also I need to create another folder here, and that's going to be for the orders here. And I'll create another one, and that's going to be for tracking here. Now in this dashboard folder, create a new file. I'll create a new file and I'll call this file sidebar. I'll just say sidebar.txs, sorry, and we'll say rfce. This is going to be sidebar. Okay, we have the sidebar here. What we need to do is I'll just bring in that sidebar into our dashboard layout here. Instead of this h1 here, I'm going to have our sidebar like this. And here I can remove this indigo because I don't want to have that indigo. Here I want to have that color, but right on our sidebar here. So let's go back into this sidebar here and let's begin to work on this sidebar. Now, I want to also install a package here before we continue. So I'm going to create a new terminal window here, and I'll say npm install clsx here. This is a package that will help us to give some dynamic class names for our application. So let's go back to notes here. It's been installed. Now let's come here. Let's start with this. I'm going to give a class name. Background here is going to be indigo 500, and width is going to be full. Flex, and flex here is going to be column. Height is going to be screen. Padding y of 2 and p of 3, like this. I'm going to remove this sidebar and I'll just give an a tag here. The href is going to be on slash, and in here I'll just give a p tag where I'll just call this tracker, which is going to be our logo, and here give a class of hidden on small devices, while on medium devices we just want to say this is going to be of block. The text here is going to be 4x large. Text is going to be indigo 50. Cursor is going to be pointer like this, and in this a element we need to have another class here. This class here, this class which we are putting on this p element, we can move it up here. This class names here, let's move it up to this a element because it's going to be applied also to this p here. And here, this is where we are going to use the library which we just imported like this. And here we can put our let's put poppins. Let's bring in our poppin library here. Let's say poppins here dot class name like this. Now we are not doing anything now with this CLSS library. What it does is it actually gives us the ability to conditionally write class names for a particular element here. Let's check this now. Let's check this. Yes, you see we have our logo here, which is the tracker application. If you click here, it will take us back to the home page here. But there's something you notice here. You see that when we click on that button, you see this the whole page reloads because of that a element. That's the native navigation. That's the way native navigation work in Next.js. But Next.js is all about optimization, performance. So we're going to see what Next.js has to offer for us in order to solve this problem. But for now, let's just keep on building that sidebar. We're going to talk about that later. So let's go back to our dashboard. This is dashboard. Okay, like this. Let's finish up with this navigation element here. I'll come back to our code. I'm going to install another package here. This is going to be our icons package. I'll say npm I at hero icons slash at hero icons slash react. Let's wait for that package to install. Okay, installation is done. Now what I'll do is I'm going to have some links here. So const links here like this. And in here, I'm going to have an object with the name. So dashboard, and the href is going to be for dashboard here. I'm also going to have another property here, which is going to stand for our icon. The first is going to be a home icon, which is going to come from heroes icon. We want this solid 24. We want this one here, not the one for 16. We want this 24 on. I'm going to get rid of this like this. Okay, now I just have to duplicate this. I'm going to duplicate this like 4 times. Instead of dashboard here now, I'm going to have orders. Orders. And here, I'm going to have orders. Here, we're going to have tracking. And here, this is tracking. Here, we're going to have create order. It's going to be create order. And here, we just go to oh, remember, we need to be putting dashboard here too. Dashboard slash orders slash create. This is the URL here. This is going to be dashboard slash tracking dashboard slash create. So here, okay, like this. I'm going to give another div below this a element here, and this div I'll just give a flex here of, I'll give a flex and a gap of 3, and flex is going to be colon because we want them to come after one another. And items is going to be start with is going to be full, and margin top is going to be 10, like this. In here, this is where we are going to loop over our links like this. And here, I just need to close this. Okay, I'm putting a breakpoint there. That was unintentional. Now, in here, this is where we're going to have our A elements. So I'm just going to say, let me see what these guys are giving me. I'll remove this. Yes, like this. Let me just try to edit the class names here. First of all, I'm going to remove everything we have here. And I'll bring in our CLS, our CLXX library here. Oh. So here we can begin to give some class names here. So flex here, the height here is going to be like 16. Width is going to be full. Items, center, rounded, MD. And when we hover here, we want to have a background of indigo 500. This indigo 50, sorry, not 500. On hover also, we want to have a padding left of, yes, padding left of 2. And the text here is going to be indigo 500. Yes, I think indigo 500. Font is going to be bold, and justify start, and a gap of 2. Cursor pointer, of course. Cursor pointer. coming here, I'm going to remove this. We don't need the poppins font here. I'm just going to give a text of X large, and it's going to be hidden with a. On medium device, we just want to say this is going to be a block. And for our icon here, I'll give a width of 6 and a height of also 6. And this is going to be a block level element. The text is going to be indigo. Indigo 500, like this. So with this now, let's check before we continue if we are moving in the right direction. Okay, nothing's being shown here, but when we hover our mouse here, you can see the you can see our items. You can see our menu items, but they are not visible now here. Let's adjust that. So we can change this this text, this indigo text, from 500 to like 400, because 500 is the color of the background, indigo 500. So in order to make the text to be visible, let's just reduce the opacity down to 400 here, like this. If you go back, I think we're going to see our contents now. Okay, this is it. So when you hover over your mouse, it's going to be like this. Okay, now this is not looking bad on small devices. Yes, you see, on small devices like this. Okay, we're getting this section shift a bit because of our this. We're going to adjust this. Okay, back to our code here, the VS Code. Now we need to give the other elements. We need to give the other links here. Now I'm going to need more space here in order to work. So I'm just going to hide this bar here. And here I'll minimize this. Okay, below here I'll give another div. I'll give flex to go like this. And here I'm going to give, after this I'm going to give another A element here. The href is just going to go to /setting here. And in here we're going to bring here we're going to have a logo. We're going to have another we're going to have an icon here. We're going to have an icon, and that icon name is like this. 6. Oh, this, I think this should import from solid fonts or Yak 24 solid. Okay, this is it here. Yes. Okay. Now let's give it class name. Text is going to be indigo 400. It's the same style in which we gave up there, with like this. And for the A element itself, let's give some stylings to it too. Class height is going to be 16. And on hover, we want a background of white. On hover, 1 of 2. Yes. Rounded is also MD. And here, flex, item, centered, and a gap of 3. Now this background white here, instead of background white here, I'm just going to give a background of indigo dash 50, like this. And now in here we can have our P. This is going to be settings. I'm going to copy this class here and I'll paste here. Instead of this A now here, we're going to need by the button. This is going to be a button. A button do not have an href, so we need to remove this href from here. Actually, what we're going to have here is actually a form in order to submit this button here, because this is going to be our lockout button here. So it's going to be a form which we're going to use to submit this button here. And inside this form now we can have our button. Let's just put button. We can have the button here. Okay, this button now, how we're going to give some styles now to this button. Let's give it class name of outline, none, and flex, of course, and items, center, Let's give a gap of 3, like we've been doing. Justified is going to be start, like so. For the icon now, for this icon, I'm going to give arrow left on rectangle. Arrow left on rectangle, this one. Okay, this icon is not available here. Let me bring it here. Say arrow left on rectangle. Arrow left n on rectangle. Okay, this one. I'll remove this. Say arrow left n on rectangle. Let's check this out now. Okay, we have the setting here. If you look down here, you have them here right at the end of the page here. This is the settings, and here this is our lockout button right here too. Okay, another thing is what's missing here is this text. We want to change the color of this text from black to the same color here. Text is going to be indigo 400, and this settings here, I'll just say bold. The font here is going to be bold, I think, because all the other fonts there are bold. Copy this, and I'll also bring it here. Let's save. Let's go back and check. Okay, it's not looking bad. They're the same now. Yes. Now the only thing we need to put here now is the user's account. We need to put the user's account here, and for that we're going to need an image. So let's just hurry up to Unsplash. Say Unsplash. Let's get an image from here. Also profile. I'll use this one. Let's copy image address. Let's go back to application. After this form, we need to have another div here. The class we're going to give cursor is going to be pointer. Height is going to be 16 as usual. 16. Yes, flex. Item center, and gaps is going to be 3. And in here, we're going to have our image. Remember, this image is coming from next image. So we need to bring it from next image. This one. That means we need to provide the source here. And the source here is going to be a remote domain. So we need to put here what we just copied from Unsplash. This is going to be the source. And it needs an alt tag. Here we'll just say profile picture. Now this is not all, because if you go to view this picture, it's going to throw us an error. As I told you earlier, when you are passing the source like this, if it's not a static import, we need to provide the height and the width of this image here. So here I'll give a width of, let's say 40, and a height of 40, like this. And I'll just give a class name. Let's give it class, my children. Give it class name of rounded full. Here you can have a P. Okay, yes, like this. This is, let's just give a name here. Let's say Mia. Let's check. Having this error message here because Next.js do not recognize this domain. And as I told you before, Next.js is all about security and performance. So throughout their docs, you hear they talk about security and performance. And if you look here, Next.js is finding difficulties to optimize this image here because it doesn't know where this image is coming from. So to protect you, Next.js is going to throw this error here. So what can we do in order to resolve this error? So we need to provide the host name so that Next.js know where this error is coming from. So that Next.js know where this image is coming from. So we need to do that in the next config file. So let's head over back to our application. We'll come to next config file here. What we'll do is we need to bring in let's say images here, and in here we're going to say remote patterns. This is going to be an array, and you can define some options here. You can specify as many options as you want. If you click here, if you hit space back here, you see the various number of options which you can provide, but the required is the host name. You must provide the host name, and here the host name is going to be images.unsplash.com, and we need to provide the protocol also. These are the only two things I'm going to provide here. So with this, it's going to work now, but let's check our terminal if it's restarted. Yes, our terminal is restarted because we made some changes to our next config file. We can now close this file, and let me hide back my terminal. Let's go back here. Let's try to refresh this page now. Yes, you see, the page is being refreshed. If you look here, this is our image here, down here. I have this specify thing here which is disturbing this page. Let me just disable it. So you see our image here, but this image here is not a perfect circle. So let's adjust that. Let us first change the width and the height of this image here. I'll give it to 30 because the width and the height are too big. 30. And here I'm just going to give a gap. No, this gap is okay, but here I'll give a width of auto for the same reason we talked about earlier in the images section. This height is auto. So because this is not the actual size of the image here, we are passing here, so we need to set the height and width here to auto. So now with this, I think this navigation section now is done. Let's go and see. Let me show you a problem which we have with the way we are using this sidebar at the moment, like this. So like this, it's not perfect. It's not perfect like this. So let's go and see. Now at the moment, if you go to dashboard, your dashboard here, you see that whenever we click on these links, we have a full page reload. If you look at the address bar here, you see we are in orders here. Let's go to tracking here. See, we are tracking, and we are having a full page reload whenever we navigate from one page to another, this create order. And this is the default behavior of the a tag element in HTML. What it does is it's going to refresh our page. So we're going to have a full page reload. But this is not what we want. So that means we're going to be using the link component from Next.js, from next link. We're going to be using the link component from Next.js, which is going to solve this problem for us. So the link component in Next.js is very powerful. So we're going to use it. So let's head over to the slides and see the advantages that comes with next link. So here we have link optimization. So with next link, we have an automatic Next.js automatically prefetch code for linked pages in the background. That means for all the pages that are already in the viewport of our application, Next.js is going to prefetch the code for those link pages for us without affecting our page in any way. That means all the codes are going to be available so that when we click on a particular link, we just have the code for that link available, given to us when we click on that link. So that's what Next.js does with the link element. It prevents a full page reload by fetching only the necessary data and renders the new page content. As I told you before, the a tag is going to perform a full page reload, but with the next link, we do not have a full page reload. And another most important advantage we have with the next link is that it does code splitting and isolation for us. So what is code splitting? That means Next.js is going to split uh, our application or our code into route segment. So each route segment is going to act like a bundle. So it's going to split our application into route segments, where each route segment is going to be a bundle. And Next.js is going to load only each bundle at a time. Instead of loading all our application code at once, Next.js is going to load each bundle at a time. So when we navigate to the next page, Next.js is going to now load that bundle for us. So, so an, an advantage of doing this code splitting is that if a page on our application has an error, that doesn't mean the rest of the pages are not going to work. All the other pages are going to be working. So only the page that has that error is going to be dormant. All the other pages in the application is going to work. And the code is going to be loosely coupled from each other. As you can see from this diagram on the right here, with JavaScript or with React, everything, we have the overview page, our order page, and the tracking order page. You see that everything here, the bundle size of the whole of this application here is 2 megabyte. Next.js is going to split, like, for example, this application here has 3 routes. You have the overview, order, and tracking routes. What Next.js does is it's going to split this bundle into this route. So if we are on the overview page here, if you're on the overview page, only this overview page is going to be loaded, while these two are being prefetched in the background. They remain in the background, but only this one is being loaded for us at that moment. So that means instead of loading 2 megabyte, only a 1 megabyte is going to be loaded. So this has a very important performance for us, because the load time for this component here is going to be is going to reduce. Instead of loading 2 megabytes, it's going to load only 1 megabyte here. And when you go to the other component, instead of loading 2 megabyte, it's going to load only 800 kilobytes here. You see that it is much less than loading 2 megabyte there. So it's the same thing here as the same thing for tracking here. One thing you should note when it comes to prefetching also is that with static route, the prefetch property is set to true. That means, as I told you before, with static route, our application code is not going to change on renders. So now that we know what this the next link component does for us, let's go and replace our a tags with the next link component. So let's go back to the application. Here, instead of this a tag here, we're going to say this is going to be a link here, and you're going to get this link from next link. That is it up there, like this. So here we're going to replace everything. Yes, we're going to replace everything here with link, and not that. Okay, yes, I think this is what we have to replace. Let's come in here. Instead of this a, here's 2, we need a link, and I think we need one in our pages root directory here. I think this is it. No, is let me see, this one. Yes, here instead of this a, we're going to put a link from next link, like this. Can't find link. We need to bring this from next link. Okay, so let's go back to our sidebar. If we open back now our application, you see, if you are navigating now from if we are navigating from the application throughout the application, you see that we do not have that full page reload which we had earlier. You see, we don't have that full page reload which we had earlier. Only these sections will be changed. And also, if you look at this dashboard URL here, only the segments here are changing. You see, only the segments are changing. Our shared layout is not changing. So that's the power of the link component which we are importing from Next.js. So everything is going according to plan, but we still have another issue here. If you look here, we do not know where we are currently at, except if you read here, you see that we are at the create route here. But we need to be able to identify that information from our navigation links here. So we need to style one of these navigation links here when we are on a particular page. So Next.js gives us that ability by supplying us with a hook called the use path name hook, which we can use to identify the path which we are currently at. So in that way, now we can give different CSS class names for these links here. So let's check that out in our application. Let's go back. Okay, if we come here, as I told you before, Next.js is going to give us a hook which we can use here. So let's get that hook. I'm going to import it first before we use. Let's import use path name from next navigation. You need to get it from next navigation. And if you come here, let's say const path name is equals to use path name. Now, this I told you before that every component which we write in Next.js by default is going to be a server component. And here we are importing a hook which only works on the client environment into a server environment. This is not going to work because this hook is not available on the server. As I told you before, if you want to work on a client environment, if you want to work on the client side, you need to opt in by using the use client hook up here. So here, I mean, it is it is not a hook, it's actually a directive. So we can use a use client directive of up here. Let's say use client. So by doing this, we are making the whole of this sidebar here a client component. I'm making the whole of this sidebar here a client component. So if you lock now this path name here, let's lock this path name to the console. CLJ CLJ path name. Yes, you see, the path name here is the dashboard. We are currently at the dashboard section here. See, dashboard / order / query. We can now use this path name in order to style our links accordingly. So where are we going to use this path name? Let's come where we are looping over our links. Where is it? This is settings. Okay, this is it here. We are mapping over our links here. We need to provide that class here inside this classes, inside this CLSX function here. And what we're going to do is here, I'll give a comma and I'll put the next parameter, which happens to be an object. And I'll just give a background of indigo 50 like this and padding left of 2. And we are checking if the path name is equal to link.ref. Remember, the link.ref is our path name, which we defined here. This is it. So if it matches one of these paths here, we are going to give this class name here. So let's try that. Yes, if you look now, you see that it's correctly identified this path here. We are at the correct order here. So if you go now to tracking, you see it stays here. We are at tracking. If you go now to orders, we are at orders. If you go to dashboard, we are at the dashboards now. Now, this is still not perfect for me. This is still not perfect for me because here we are making all of this sidebar client component, and Next.js is all about performance and speed, and we want to render as much components as we can on the server. So when you are building Next application, that's the one thing you need to have in mind. You need to render as much components as you can on the server. Like I said, we're going to talk about server components very soon, but just bear with me for now while I'm talking about them now. If you don't know what they are, so the thing is, you need to be able to render. You need to try to render as much components as you can on the server. But now here we are rendering all of this sidebar here as a client component. So what I'm going to do is, I want to only render these sections here that use path name on the client. So I'm going to render only these navigation buttons here on the client. So on the client, while the rest of these sections here is going to be on the server. So let's go and do that. So back to our application here, I'm going to remove this. I'm going to create a new file in the dashboard UI here. I'll create a new file in the dashboard UI here, and I'll call this nav-links.tsx here. And in this nav-links.tsx, what I'll do is I'm just going to copy the code which we have from here, which we have from our sidebar here. I'm going to copy this. I think it's this section. Yes. I'm just going to copy this, or cut it, Control X, and I'll bring it to our nav links here. Let's write our component first, and this is going to be nav links. I'll just paste it here. So at the moment we do not have all of this, but we're going to get them from here. I'm going to cut all of this too. Control X, and also come here. I'll paste it here. Control V. We do not have all of these imports here, so let's come back here, and I'm going to remove this. We're going to import them automatically. So also with this, I'm going to cut this. I'll remove it from here. So this now is not going to be a client component because we are not using any client code here. So I'm going to remove this, and let's go to nav link here. I'm just going to put that in the nav link here. This is going to be use client, and here I'm going to paste our use path name here. So let's import everything. Let's import this, and here I'm going to import let's import the link. Let's import this too. Let's also get this. Let's get this too. And let's get this. Let's also get this. So with this now, this component is now clean. Everything is back to normal. Everything is back to normal. And what we can do is, let's come back to the sidebar. We need to just bring that component after this link here. I'll just say nav links here. Great. You see, we can import a client component into a server component and it's going to work just fine. You can import a client component to a server component. But what you cannot do is you cannot import a server component into a client component. That one is not going to work. So yes, so we are going to talk about server and client component very soon. Just save. Now let's check back the application. Yes, you see, if we refresh, everything is still intact. Everything is still the same. We have hard refresh. You see, you can navigate back and forth. Now we have this n here. This is weird. Let's correct it. I also see that here we have setting, and our image here is not yet is not a perfect square, but we're going to adjust that later. I think it's the nature of the image. But now let's try these settings here. Let's remove these settings from here. We have settings, and this one is going to be lockout. I want to lock out here. So let's go back. Let's come. Yes, lockout. Also this n. I forgot that. Okay, this is it here. We need to remove this n from here. Now everything is happy. Yes, everything is happy now. So with this this section, with this we are done with this section. In the next section, we are going to talk about the different environments in which we can render our code. We're going to talk about the different environments in which we can render our code, and also we are going to build our component. All of the components in this application, we're going to build the static components for this application. At that point, we're going to build the static components of the application. Yes, so that's what we're going to be doing in the next section. So see you in the next section. Bye, and take care of yourself.